What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Baekfast Club, a VGC talk show slash podcast hosted by yours truly. And we are going to be getting into quite a bit of the topics today because we have the VGC regulation announcement that we have for December to March, as well as 4 regional championships that we have to go over. So, of course, as always, if you do enjoy the Baekfast Club, please help out the series by leaving a like down below, leave a comment down below, sharing it with your friends. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, just do whatever Spotify does that helps out the Spotify algorithm, because I never use Spotify. So make sure you do that as well. And if you're on YouTube, you can, of course, look at the podcast or listen to the podcast on Spotify as well. But we got quite a bit of an action-packed one today, and I do not want to cover like a super long episode today, so let's just get straight into the action. Now, the last episode, the timing was not the best. Now, to be fair, I had recorded an episode a few weeks ahead before I uploaded. Unfortunately, the uploading did get delayed. I got delayed with the thumbnail, and I uploaded as soon as I had access to the thumbnail. Unfortunately, that was the day right before the format got announced. So, love having those kinds of coincidences, but I guess it kind of makes sense because normally they would update the formats at the end of the month leading up towards the next regulation. But yes, we have Regulation F coming back, and some of you might be curious about this because Regulation C did actually win the Twitter poll, I believe, on the Play Pokemon account, but there were actually 3 different polls on the social medias. There might have been a Facebook poll too, but I don't use Facebook, and I don't know anyone, I think, really that uses Facebook as much around me. So yeah, there was, or at least Pokemon players that do. So yeah, I believe Regulation F actually won every other poll on YouTube and Instagram at least. And I have no idea, again, if there was a Facebook poll and what the results of the Facebook poll were. But Regulation F is actually going to be the format. If you don't know what Regulation F is, it is basically the national dex, truly the national dex of the format, where pretty much everything is allowed other than the restricted and mythical Pokemon. So all the Paradox Pokemon, all the Ruin Pokemon, and of course all the home DLC, everything is allowed in Regulation F. And if you want my opinion, I don't really have a strong one here. Like, at general, this was to be expected. The only thing that I really want to note is this is a long regulation, and I mean a really long regulation. This is a 4-month regulation, and that is pretty long because when you think about it, if we're having champions lead up toward the World Championship, that means we only have April, May, and June. Because if you don't know, for VGC, tournaments actually take a pause in July. So I guess that would be a Worlds training arc period if you qualify for Worlds. But we only get 3 months of competitive champions. And then 4 months, I guess 5 if you count like the first few weeks of August, and then the World Championship itself. But yeah, it doesn't really feel like a Champions World should really be happening when it's only like 3 competitive months and 5 total months of champions. Maybe that's just me, but it really does feel like Gen 9 VGC has gotten really stale in general. And obviously the release dates, they can't really help it because this probably means that Champions is not coming out at a reasonable time. Probably coming out most likely in March. I think if they had it coming out in like February or earlier, it would probably just been until the end of February, or maybe it's like towards the end of February. But yeah, it's just a bit unfortunate to see because it means that we are going to be playing Scarlet and Violet, so it will be quite a bit of a drop period. I really hope at least on there, if there's a bright side, they bring back the rank ladder to match with Regulation F being the January ranked ladder, because if Regulation F isn't, oh boy, does it get chaotic here. But yes, unfortunately, we are going to get more Scarlet and Violet action, and it does kind of hurt. I think I've definitely experienced this, and I know a bunch of players that I've been talking to. They are quite disappointed in this change. Granted, it was to be expected, but yeah, unfortunately, we are going to be going into Regulation F for 4 months, and I don't really care about the format, really. It's not like too big of a deal I think, because I think this was one to be expected. I think I prefer Reg F than Reg C, but it's not, again, like one of my favorite formats, so I'm kind of like neutral on this format. Yeah, it is kind of a shame to see that champions will not be coming out for quite a while, it looks like. So imagine if they even like make us play like just Regulation I. At this point, I think we should have just had Regulation I. That's kind of thing, and I think that's a problem with regulations in general, where I just don't like this 4-month period of regulations. I think if you're gonna have a format, it should be 6 months. 6 months, maybe 5. But generally I think 6 is pretty fair. But yeah, I just don't really like the 4-month period, because one, obviously, because we went through all these different regulations, that they made us go back to certain regulations, and I just really don't like that. I think if I preferred the year-long formats where we were really able to grind out a format, because like I think it's better in general than like going to a format, playing a different format, then coming back to the same format, because at that point it's like, why? What was the point? Like, what was the point of this? So that's just like a gripe I have. Let me know what you feel in the comments down below, because I've had this thing about ever since they transitioned from a 1-year-long span format to just, you know, multiple like regulations. Like in Ultra series, at least it kind of built up towards something in like 2019, and I really actually did like that they did at least most of the season in 2022 in this one regulation. I really have not been a fan of like these 1 to 3 to 4 month periods where we're just playing one format and then switching to another. I feel like really creative team building is when a format becomes more of solved, and then like, okay, we can build to solve against these problems, right? Because I feel like if we take a break here and there, we just go back and then everyone's just bored and tired of it at this point, and I feel like we get really stale team building, at least from most cases. Of course, we did have some exceptions, like Wolf, when we did get back into Regulation G Part 2, was able to really craft a cool team, but for the most part it did seem like, yeah, like it was pretty boring otherwise. So that's my opinion. Let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, we're going back to Reg 8 or Reg F. So, I mean, it could have been worse. We could have had Regulation H or Regulation G Part 3, but that will be the news about the format. And if you haven't already, make sure you go check out the last episode. Even though it's kind of outdated, I did rank all the tier or all the regulations in Scarlet Violet. So if you're interested in like knowing my thoughts about each of the regulations, about what options we had, I would highly recommend go checking it out. But of course, let us get into the 4 regional championships that we have to go over in Regulation H. Did I say 4 regional championships? I meant 5. We've had 5 regional championships within the span of 3 weekends, with 2 of them usually on the same weekend. We had Milwaukee and Bello on the same weekend. A little happened afterwards solo, and then Brisbane, Gdansk, I believe that's how you pronounce those, were also the same weekend. So let's get started with the Bello Regional Championship in Brazil, and Renzo Navarro was able to win this regional championship. And if you don't know, Renzo is a Players Cup winner before in the Sword and Shield era. Really strong player, bunch of great accomplishments, and he has won with this kind of similar version to the Manuela team that was able to win the regional championship in the Frankfurt. Yeah, it was Frankfurt, with the Sword Stance, Sneasler with Terra Flying, Grassy Seed Unburdened, Assault Vest Rillaboom, Leftovers, Terra Electric, Yawn, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, the Alolan Ninetales, same set with the Encore, I believe, over Disable. It might have been Encore, I can't remember, on the Manuela team. It was either Encore or Disable. I've seen so many different Ninetales set at this point with this team, so I have seen it all. The Ghost Incineroar with Safety Goggles, this time with Taunt over the Flare Blitz, and actually running the Volcarona instead over the Golden Go, which we would commonly see with the Covert Cloak and the Quiver Dance, Terra Fairy, Terra Blast set, and Protect. So across the board, I mean, it's pretty similar to how you would expect it. It's really strong. You do have that General 5 that we commonly see, though Golden Go was a pretty big component. However, Volcarona, really strong, especially with the fire coverage that it does have access to. Really good into opposing opposing Golden Go, which is a really big strong suit, and just good into a lot of different teams in general. That Terra Fairy, Terra Blast is super strong from Volcarona, especially when boosted. being able to hit the Dragon Knights, especially. Before that, they can haze away the Volcarona boost, and of course, being immune to that scale shot. You're seeing the taunt on the Incineroar over Flare Blitz because you have the fire coverage on the Volcarona and you want the taunt on the Incineroar, so to make sure that like there's like trick room stuff that could happen. And of course, you don't want the Volcarona to be hit by a spore from Amoonguss, so you can taunt and make sure the spores don't get off against your team. But of course, the board, super solid team, not too surprising. I think Renzo's kind of used some similar balance stuff in the past with Regulation H. If I'm not mistaken, he used like the Basque Legion stuff with Rillaboom Instant, with like the Choice Scarf adaptability with the King Gambit. So a little bit of a change here, but still a really strong team. Not really surprising to see it do well, and he was able to win this regional championship in Belo. And in second place, we have Victor Vieira. I was having a tongue twister moment for a second, and we've seen this Flamigo team do pretty well before in Regulation H, but normally it would be the balanced version with Amoonguss. This is no Amoonguss. This is a Rotom Wash with Choice Scarf, which is a very interesting decision. So you have that speed control option for the Electro Web that can make it more effective. So Rotom Wash, you could go for Electro Web and have a follow-ups with Flamigo alongside the Golden Go. Also helps against opposing Golden Go, which is really unique. It also help out the Ursaluna. I have no idea if it's actually a fast Ursaluna or not, but that would make a ton of sense. And yeah, there's like quite a bit that could happen with this team. But of course, you have the good stuff, the Incineroar, Ursaluna, Porygon 2, and Golden Go kind of combination with this Incineroar. And of course, provides the Intimidate, good support mod in general. You have the standard Flame Orb Guts Ursaluna with Terra Ghost with 3 attacks, the Terra Fighting Porygon 2 to help out against King Gambit. You have the Life Orb Golden Go with the Water Terrestrialization with Nasty Plot, and the Scrappy Flamigo, because of course it does prevent it from getting intimidated. You can hit opposing Golden Go with the Close Combat, and with Tailwind is actually nice speed control for your own Golden Go, as well as like maybe your Ursaluna, again depending on the speed investment that you do have. And it is pretty good coverage with Fighting Flying being fantastic in this format, and the Electric Terra or the Electric Rotom Wash, which we just don't see too often, but has options with like Trick and can give some disruption against opposing Pokemon, but also like trick a Choice Scarf into your own Pokemon, for instance. And speed control again with Electro Whip and Hydro Pump to be able to hit to the bulky fire types that can be a little bit annoying for the team, and Volt Switch of course to pivot around, and of course it could be beneficial to that Ursaluna activating that Flame Orb on the switch. So yeah, definitely a really cool team. Rotomosh is definitely an interesting mod. We have seen a few Rotomoshes here and there in Regulation H. Hasn't done extremely well if I'm not mistaken, because of course Rotomosh is one of those mods with Hydro Pump, which is already a pretty big inaccurate move, but across the board does have some pretty solid tools and not surprising to see. And yeah, was able to do well and get second place here. Then we have in third place, we have Sebastian with, it looks like a pretty standard team on paper, but then some of the sets, yeah, it's like, huh? Yeah, it has Focus Sash, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, which it's not really a common item you see on Blood Moon Ursaluna. Like normally it'd be Assault Vest or Life Orb or even Leftovers, but this one is going to be Focus Sash. Of course, if I'm assuming it's going to be the max special attack, max speed variant, and that kind of Ursaluna is pretty frail, especially on the special side. And since you do have the Life Orb on the Golden Go and the Assault Vest already take on the Rillaboom, a little bit hard to use those items on the Ursaluna. And since you're not really like having setups with Yawn or Calm Mind to stick around, yeah, that Focus Sash item, I guess, just for the extra safety if necessary. Safety Goggles Annihilate with Taunt and Final Gambit as a more offensive option. The Loaded Dice Standard Dragonite with the Fairy Terra, Scale Shot, Tailwind, Protect, and Haze. And Mirror Urban Incineroar, which is good into King Gambit, which can be a little bit scary for this team because you don't have any Dark Resist other than Incineroar. So it makes a ton of sense. Also helps out maybe against opposing Annihilate as well, being able to get that boost off immediately with this Incineroar and really just drafting some heavy damage across the board. But yeah, other than like maybe the Focus Sash Ursaluna and the Mirror Urban Incineroar, not like too crazy, I would say. We have seen this kind of Annihilate do well. The Final Gambit trades can be nice. The Taunt is really good, especially into those like balanced teams of Incineroar and Amoonguss, because this Safety Goggles Annihilate is really hard for those teams to stop it, especially like with P2 and a bunch of others. And then like just generally good mods, I'd say Life Orb Golden Go, Assault Vest Rillaboom, Loaded Dice Dragonite, pretty standard. Focus Sash Ursaluna, pretty interested to see how that one played out, but yeah, other than that, pretty standard. Then we have in fourth place, I did not how to pronounce your team, but this team is going to be a Grimsnall Screens team, and this Grimsnall Screens team is pretty annoying to deal with if you have not seen it before. So we have this light clay Grimsnall with, of course, both screens, the Thunderwave support, and Spirit Break that can lower the special attack. We also have the otherwise is like screens, and the idea of this team is mainly for damage control, because with the screens, with generally bulky Pokemon, you're able to tank the attack decently well, but you're able to really fire off some powerful damage, mainly from your Choice Specs Golden Go alongside the Life Orb Ursaluna. That's kind of the idea of this team in general, is to kind of damage trade with these Pokemon and these screens. That's mainly the idea here. You also have the Water Terrestrialization or Chalan with really powerful like Draco Meteor, Body Press, Electroshock, and Snarl with Assault Vest. It's not like a rain team, so it's kind of interesting to have Electroshock on it, but because with the Assault Vest, the stamina boost, and the screens, really hard to actually like damage this Archaludon. So that Electroshock can punish rain teams, but also you can have several turns to basically build up your special attack stat. You have the Volcarona that can be pretty supportive with that Will-O-Wisp, Heat Wave, and Redirection. And then, of course, the main damage dealers are going to be your Choice Specs Golden Go, your Life or Blood Moon Ursaluna, and you can have speed control with the Tailwind Dragonite instead, which also does appreciate the screens as well. So it's a really interesting team. Again, a lot built on damage trades with the Golden Go and the Blood Moon Ursaluna, and trying to get knockouts with these Pokemon, or just outbulk your opponent's team utilizing like Archaludon. That's just really hard for some teams to handle, especially on the screens, with this Volcarona as well with Will-O-Wisp support. You also have Haze on the Dragonite to get rid of any stat boosting strategies that your opponent might do, while like your Grimmsnarl is setting up screens, for example. Then we have in fifth place, we have Pedro with a pretty interesting fusion team. This really reminds me of like the combination of both Chepacrosses and Umfamezi's Top Cut Pittsburgh regionals team, and then as this Volcarona as a mode. So we have like this Rocky Helmet Mousehold that won the last regional championship, Terra Poison, which is nice against the super effective fighting moves, with Super Fang, Feint, Follow Me, and Protect. So you have Super Fang to like reduce the damage, you have Feint to break multi-scale, as well as like any protects, redirection support, with Friend Guard that just makes it harder to knock out the allies. The Golden Go with the Choice Specs Terra Steel, Make It Rain, a really powerful option. The multi-scale Dragonite with Choice Band, which is a really effective late game cleaner usually in this regulation, with very powerful attacks. Choice Scarf Basky Legion as well, that is also again really strong with that end game last respects that you can go for, and the Terra Fighting Terra Blast, which is useful because King Gambit, you don't have the initial dark resist, so having that option is pretty good for the sucker punches. You also have the Rillaboom with Assault Vest, and then Grassy Seed Volcarona. So this is where it gets interesting, because you do kind of have that fake out support alongside this Grassy Seed Volcarona, which definitely is unique because you are going to be able to take the attacks better with that Grassy Seed boosting the defense. You have that Friend Guard Mousehold. You also have a Quiver Dance to set up, and the Heatwave Terra Blast super threatening. And then you have like, again, a lot of offensive capability. So I think this is a really cool kind of team that kind of combined like the two offensive mons from Umfamezi's version. Then you had like what Chepabrow with the Mousehold and the more offensive Golden Go, and then you kind of have this Volcarona Rillaboom to round things out. Give me a Fire Water Grass core. I think it is a pretty strong team in general, because you have a lot of immediate offense immediately, and then you have like this setup mode, which is also pretty good, I think, into a lot of teams. So really cool team to see that was able to get fifth place. In sixth place, we have the Elizabeth team, which is a team created by a player in Japan, and this team has been a pretty dominant one for the most part, and otherwise just maybe running a few different tricks. Like it says, the Citrus Berry Sinistra, it's going to be the Mental Herb to help out against random Taunt and Encore, and then the Golden Go is running the Power Gem set instead of the Protect that we commonly see, but it makes sense for like those fire types, and to be able to hit like Charizard and Volcarona, which this team can a little bit struggle into. But across the board, I believe it is still the Safety Goggles Pelipper. I think it's Terra Steel and usually Tailwind over Wide Guard now, but still the Muddy Water Pelipper is still really strong. The Loaded Dice Scale Shot Dragonite, which is not too surprising. Flame Orb Ursaluna that should be fast with the Tailwind mode, and then this Archaludon, which of course is really hard to stop because that Terra Fighting, really good special defense investment with the Assault Vest, and yeah, Electric Shot in Rain, really powerful body presses off Terra Fighting, and Snarl to reduce the special attackers from like Ursaluna as well as the Golden Ghost especially. So very not surprising to see this team. It's been really dominant in the Regulation H format. It's kind of fallen off. I think its Regulation H has gone on, but still has been a very powerful team from the start. Then we have an interesting team from Gabriel Agati, who did finish in the 7th place here. And yeah, like he's running a balanced team featuring the Incineroar, Rillaboom, Grassy Seed, Volcarona, and then the Citrus Berry Amoonguss. So really loves the combination of like all these balanced compositions with Amoonguss, Rillaboom, running both grass types with Incineroar. Running the Fairy Tera on Incineroar, which is interesting for the super effective close combat, but also like since Sneasler's been kind of dropping Dire Claw as of lately because of the acrobatic set, they run the, you don't have to worry about like the Dire Claw, so that Fairy Tera can be helpful against Dragonite as well to prevent Scale Shot boost. King Gambit you also have that can set up with like Sword Stance with the Terra Dark Black Glasses set with double Dark move Sword Stance. And you also have Choice Specs Dragapult, which is really interesting. We don't really see Dragapult that commonly in the format anymore, and I think it's been a super strong mon that players kind of not really looked back. It really hasn't done well in this part 2 regulation. It was a pretty dominant mon at the beginning of Regulation H part 1. So running a special set with Infiltrator, which is interesting. It helps bypass the screens, which is really cool, and substitutes. It doesn't bypass anything else, but those are pretty big ones to note, because since you don't have to worry about like Intimidate, you can get away with, hey, not running the Clear Body ability. And Strong Draco Meteor, Shadow Balls, of course, are really powerful, and Terra Fairy, Terra Blast. I mean, area coverage, of course, is very valued in Regulation H, and having 2 of them, yeah, really powerful here. So was able to get 7th place for Gabriel, and then Fabio as the last one, going to be running a similar team that we saw to the James Evans team that was able to get top 16 at the Pittsburgh Regional Championship. Again, if you haven't watched that episode, I highly recommend doing so, because that was a huge recap of like all the Regulation H teams coming back. We saw this team also do well. The original creator did use it to get 1st place and 3rd place on the Stadium Ladder season that was concluding the Regulation Age Part 1. Didn't have Incineroar, did have an Assault Vest Blood Moon Ursaluna instead. Then I believe Aaron Zhang did go with like a really strong performance at the Regional Championship in Mexico, I believe, and was able to do well with this composition. Then James Evans kind of took it and adjusted and brought it to the Regional Championship in top 16 at Pittsburgh. So this team has done pretty well for the most part. It's a really offensive mon mode here, because you had the Fake Tears Whimsicott with Tailwind alongside the Life of Golden Go with Terrifying Terra Blast to hit Ursaluna, as well as like opposing Archaludon and more. Choice Scarf Pelipper able to threaten heavy damage. The Assault Vest Incineroar that's able to pivot, well, provide the Intimidate and U-turn, alongside the Power Herb Sturdy Archaludon and the Focus Sash Basky Legion with adaptability that hits really hard with rain boosted liquidations, and specifically will try to clean up with that Terra Ghost Last Respects. So that is the teams that ended up making into the top 8. Then we also have like other players who did make it into the top cut, like Juan Salerno running the Emanuela team, as we mentioned before in the first part. Pretty much the same. I think it's the exact same carbon copy, if I'm not mistaken. The same Sneasler with the Source Ends, Terra Flying acrobatic set, the Terra Electric Yawn Blood Moon Ursaluna, standard Assault Vest Rillaboom, standard safety goggles Incineroar, Life Orb, Golden Go with Water Terra, and Ghost Terra Alola Ninetales with Disable. So I'm pretty sure that was the original team. Was able to top cut there and finish 9th place. 10th place has a Hard Tricker team, which is a bit interesting, but it's actually not Hard Tricker. But you look at it, it's always like one of those disguises. And it also has like Choice Bend, Dragapult with U-turn, the Covert Cloak Hatterene with Skill Swap. The idea is you have probably a Hatterene that is slower than your Torkoal, so you can go for like Skill Swap into your Torkoal, so you can have the Sun in case you're facing a wetter team. And you can also do the Skill Swap mode for the Entity as well. You get Skill Swap to get the Psychic Terrain back instead of having to switch to Entity. So that's always cool. Annihilate with Choice Scarf is going to be a big one, because you also have that final Gambit option lead. You could go for like next to your Trick'em Setter, but you can also go for like Earthquake or U-turn into your armor to activate the weak armor for the weakness policy boost. And you do have Endure, Stored Power, Expanding Force that can really hit hard if not expected. So you kind of have to prepare for this Armouge mode. The Dragapult you always have to be worried about because it can be very scary to deal with, since Dragapult is one of the fastest Pokemon in the format. And then that Tricker mode with the Hatterene Torkoal that could just sweep if you are not prepared for it. So really interesting team. And yeah, then in 11th place is going to be, I mean, it's pretty similar to the rain teams that we've seen before. Like, I believe it was Pittsburgh where this team was able to get 2 top 4 finishes, both 3rd place and 4th place. And it is like the Pelipper Basculegion with Choice Band, with Swift Swim and attacks, Standard Assault Vest or Chaladon, with the Incineroar, Sinistra, and the Guts Ursaluna. Kind of a similar idea to like how normal rain would like to play, as well as the Elizabeth, Sinistra plus Ursaluna combinations, where you do have that Tricker mode and you do have Hospitality that can heal the Archalon, the Ursaluna, and the Basculegion, and can be very powerful with sweeping with Ursaluna, or just a rain mode in general with Basculegion and Archalon. Not like too different, I would say. Across the board, you would see some other teams, like we see Murkrow actually place decently well. Like, Murkrow was a Pokemon that I'd say was pretty common, especially at the beginning of the Gen 9 format, but kind of has fallen off immensely because its bulk is not like super impressive. So that was able to get 12th place. 13th place was able to do the standard Flamigo balance team with P2 Ursaluna and Incineroar Mungus Golden Go. 14th place was able to feature like a really offensive Murkrow Golden Go team with King Gambit Dragonite, and then Dondozo Tatsugiri as a mix-up. We see, I believe we've seen this team before with Sturdy Archaludon with a bunch of other just really good general mods. And then we see the same screens team that was able to finish 16th place. Excalibur that we have seen before finishing 17th place. Marco Fierro's son in 18th place. And across the board, I think there isn't like too much crazy stuff. We've seen like a lot of these teams before, like the Sci-Span team that was able to finish top 4 in the Frankfurt Regional Championship in 22nd place. But yeah, like otherwise, like all these Pokemon we have pretty much have seen before in this regulation. So that was the Belo Regional Championship. Let's move on to the Milwaukee Regional Championship. All right, we had the Milwaukee Regional Championship, which also happened on the same weekend as the Belo Regional Championship. And as you can tell, the Emanuela team dominated, with Alex Arand and Joshua Lorsi able to claim 1st and 2nd place respectively at this event. A few small changes because they did run a few different sets. The EVs were a bit different because Michael did have, or Alex did have the basically, like they basically had the same Mons, but Alex did have the faster Mons in general, which did play into the match here. And yeah, Terra Electric, Yawn, Blood Moon, Ursaluna was Ghost, Safety Goggles, Instant, Standard Acrobatic, Sword Stance, Grassy Seed, Sneasler, Life Orb, Nasty Plot, Golden Go. The Rillaboom going to be your standard Assault Vest Terra Fire set, and then the Alola Ninetales, this one running the Encore Icy Wind set. So had a faster version of the Emanuela team, while Joshua Lorsi had a few different small changes, but I think it's like the same team he ended up running to get, I believe it was either top 8 or top 4. I think it was top 8 at the Pittsburgh Regional Championship where he lost to Chuppa. But yeah, pretty much same thing, a few changes here. Going to be running the Grass, Citrus Berry, Incineroar this time with the Life Orb, Terra Water, Golden Go, same Terra Electric, Yawn, Blood Moon, Ursaluna with leftovers, Assault Vest Standard, Rillaboom, Terra Flying, Sneasler, Common, and then the Alola Ninetales was a little bit different because it was Terra Ground, Terra Blast with Aurora Veil instead, which was interesting. But across the board, pretty similar team. But yeah, the Emanuela team, proving how strong it is, was able to dominate this regional championship. Not much to say here. Then we have another team that kind of popped up, which has also kind of dominated the format, but hasn't been seen, I think, in a little bit since it first debuted, which is the team that the 2023 World Championship Zine has been using. So this is Leonard Kraft bringing his version of what Zine did. Shohei Kimura did bring this team and got top 4 at the regional championship in Frankfurt also, I believe. So this was a pretty strong team. Focus Sash Mousehold with both Super Fang and Beat Up. You have your Annihilate with Citrus Berry. You have the Life Orb Terra Water Golden Go. You have the Metal Plate on the Rillaboom since you have your Assault Vest taken on this Terra Water Blood Moon Ursaluna, and then standard Terra Fairy Scale Shot Dragonite. So we've talked about this team before. It's just a really good team with a bunch of different ways to set up both Annihilate and Golden Go, and just a really bunch of strong mons in general, right? You have Friend Guard, you have Redirection, you have all the good items, you have Speed Control, you have ways to negate your opponent's setup. Yeah, it's just a really powerful team, so not too surprising here. Then in fourth place, we have Dylan Matthews with, okay, we have kind of a bit of a different change here. So Sinistcha is not a Pokemon we commonly see if it isn't like with our Chaladon or at least regular Ursaluna. Yeah, we're seeing Sinistcha without those Pokemon, instead opting to decide, hey, I'm going to run a bit of a different kind of team. Does have Tailwind's Dragonite with Scale Shot, that's pretty standard, alongside Icy Wind, Encore, Focus Sash, Alolan, and Ninetales. Incineroar, that is pretty standard with Safety Goggles. Then the last three, a little bit different from what we would commonly see. We have a Blood Moon Ursaluna with Life Orb and Terra Ghost, so in play around Fake Out, so it can just go immediately for like really strong damage, especially provided the Speed Control. The Sinistcha is already a bit interesting. I bet it's to mainly heal this King Gambit. I guess you could also heal the Ninetales back to Sash, as well as the Dragonite back to Multiscale, as well as, of course, Blood Moon Ursaluna and Incineroar that generally like healing. And then the King Gambit with Assault Vest, Terra Fire to prevent it from getting burned by Will-O-Wisp or Flame Body, and does have some pretty offensive threatening options with Kowtow Cleave. That's going to hurt quite a bit. The Iron Head, that's great for the Fairy Terrasilizations in this format. Sucker Punch, of course, is just really good for priority, and then Low Kick, which is great for the coverage against opposing King Gambits, Incineroar, and a bunch of other mons. So yeah, it's definitely a strange team when you kind of look on paper. It does make sense, but it's definitely not like a standard general build, but does have some stuff. I bet mainly it is going to be focusing on that Blood Moon Ursaluna that is just really able to dish out a ton. You do have some bulky mons in general with like the King Gambit, the Incineroar, and the Dragonite, and of course the Sinistcha, which again is supposed to help with these King Gambit and the Blood Moon Ursaluna. You can either try to sweep with Blood Moon Ursaluna, or you're really just trying to tank attacks with that King Gambit to really fire off the damage, because those are probably your main two biggest damage dealing mons are going to be those two mons. So really cool team from Dylan. In fifth place, we have Brian Collins running our Trick Room, which is a pretty classic for him. With pretty much, we have a pretty, I'd say like you have like your standard Trick Room mons, but then you see some of the sets and it's like, huh? Okay. So we have standard Life Orb Hatterene with Trick Room Protect, Terra Water with Expanding Force, Dazzling Gleam, Choice Specs Torkoal, of course, a main sweeper under the Trick Room and the Sun, makes a ton of sense with Terra Fire. Then we have, of course, the Focus Sash Lilligant that does have that Sleep Powder, which of course can be super disruptive. The After You for the Torkoal, Close Combat for initial damage, and Solar Blade really rely on the Sun to get the Grass type attack off. Then you have the Entity, of course, to help enable the Hatterene, the Side Spam mode, of course, with the Psychic Terrain, prevent a priority. Standard Psychic, Follow Me, Helping Hand Trick Room with the Psychic Seed and the Grass Terra type to redirect the Spores. And then the last two mons, I'd say, yeah, these are not standard hard Trick Room mons. We have Clear Amulet and Incineroar, which I have used before. I've actually used before with several other players. Like this mon actually pretty good, especially with close combat to hit opposing Incineroars, because as you can tell from this team, doesn't have the greatest ways to damage opposing Incineroar, especially if they're Assault Vest. So having that option of like close combat, prevent the Intimidates, and then really be able to fire back some heavy damage is nice. And of course, like having the Intimidate, having the Fake Out Pressure, if you like lead this Farigiraf mode instead, is actually a valid thing that you can do, and it can be a pretty powerful one. And then with this Farigiraf, if you can't get the Psychic Terrain up, why not just go with the Armor Tail instead and have Farigiraf next to it? Farigiraf is pretty strong, has that Fire Terrassilization, which is pretty interesting. I say there is like, I don't exactly know the exact reason for why I chosen Fire Terrassilization. I guess like it helps out against Golden Go, Make It Rain, and some really strong potential fire moves from like Charizard potentially, or maybe Hisuian Typhlosion. I'm not exactly sure the specifics on the Fire Terra in general, but it can maybe also help out in the Heart Trick Mirror potentially. But those are the main ones I can think of. Like it does also resist some ice coverage, but I don't think there's any like super important ice coverage that can really think of at the time. I guess like Rillaboom Woodhammer also would hurt quite a bit. So, and specifically that Make It Rain. And I guess since you run Water Terra on the Hatterene, you could run Fire Terra for like other specific situations that Water Terra doesn't cover for. So it does help out. I also guess you kind of wall Incineroar with the Flare Blitz, but yeah, I mean you do that with Water Terra anyway, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I guess like it doesn't make you weak to the Rillaboom Woodhammer afterward. So I guess it's like against Incineroar Rillaboom balance kind of compositions, because they do tend to struggle against the Ferrorav generally, especially since they usually pair with Golden Go. So it does make sense, I think, now that I think about it. And yeah, like overall, it's pretty interesting. You have like the standard like Sun size spam mode, and then of course you have Ferrorav Instant, which is like a hard trick room that it can bring, especially the offensive throat spray Ferrorav with expanding force to take advantage of psychic terrain, and then hyper voice for a really powerful attack. But you don't need the entity next to the Ferrorav in a lot of cases. So yeah, you could always have priority blocking available even if you lose the terrain war. So that is really neat to see. Then we have Wolf Glick himself coming out to play, and he was able to bring this team, which brings the Hisuian Zoroark, which for some reason was very popular at this event. And I mean very popular. A lot of players for some reason brought Hisuian Zoroark, and I do not know where the popularity came from, but why Hisuian Zoroark? One, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially if you are a really methodical player like Wolf, because of the fact that Illusion, you can play so many mind games with your opponent effectively. And what's cool about Hisuian Zoroark, a lot of types that it is just able to be immune to. So you can disguise yourselves as some of the most common Pokemon in the format, like your Blood Moon, Ursaluna, and Golden Go. And like, for instance, fighting moves are very strong into Ursaluna, Blood Moon. Guess what? You're immune to them, so you can disguise yourself as the Blood Moon. And Golden Go is weak to the Ghost type attacks. And Hisuian Zoroark right into that ghost coverage, because it is immune to the ghost coverage as well. So great against opposing Golden Go if you get the mind game right. Great into fighting mons like Annihilate, especially because you wall Annihilate, Sneasler, a few others for the close combat pressure. So yeah, like Hisuian Zoroark does make a ton of sense. It's also fast. Icy Wind speed control is also pretty solid to pair up with your Golden Go and your Blood Moon Ursaluna. This team did run max speed Blood Moon Ursaluna with the Hisuian Zoroark, so it does make sense you have that Icy Wind for the speed control in case you don't go for the Tailwind mode. But yeah, we saw that combination. We also see this low kick Dragonite with Terra Fighting. I'm assuming it's for Kingambit, because otherwise Kingambit looks like it could be really threatening to this team in general, and maybe like opposing Ursaluna as well, but I imagine it's mainly for that Kingambit. You have that Mirror Herb, which can also help out against Kingambit, and of course any boost on the Incineroar is always helpful. And Covert Cloak Whimsicott, which of course is able to prevent the fake outs, but this Whimsicott was extremely bulky and decently slow as well. I remember watching one of the games where the Whimsicott undersped something, where a max speed Whimsicott definitely didn't underspeed. I'm pretty sure it was like really defensive too. I'm pretty sure it was like really slow. I don't remember what the Mon was. It might have been like a max speed Golden Gold that I was slower against, but it was really slow, I remember. But yeah, definitely an interesting team. Really, I think Wolf was able to showcase how well it could do because of the fact that this is Hisuian Zoroark. He was able to like play the guessing game with his opponents of like, okay, what is Zoroark disguised at, and like if Zoroark's even brought as the lead. Like, of course, a lot of players did have to keep on guessing with this, and yeah, like he was able to really showcase how well it could be effective in uses. So really cool Mon to see. And then 7th place we have Sierra Elsbecker with a kind of interesting take on a team that you would probably say would be standard, but there's definitely mons that definitely stand out, which is going to be the Electabuzz and the Primarina. So we have like standard loaded dice Dragonite, this one running extreme speed over Haze with Terra Steel. We have the Assault Vest standard fire Terra type Rillaboom, except it's running drum beating over Woodhammer, so it's probably going to be max speed Rillaboom, so you can go for drum beating and then follow with a strong attack. Then you have the Blood Moon Ursaluna, which with the Calm, or not the Calm Mind, the Yawn Terra Electric set with the leftovers, the Grassy Seed, Terra Flying Sword, and Sneasler. Then you have standard support Electabuzz with Follow Me and Taunt and Electroweb, alongside Primarina with the Throat Spray, Hyper Voice, Moonblast, and you have Haze on the Primarina, so that's why you could get rid of the Haze on the Dragonite, because you do have it on the Primarina. It's kind of interesting because I don't think this team has like any centralized pieces. Like you have Disruption, you have like The Source Dance Sneasel, I guess you could set up for, but otherwise there really isn't like too much setup. You just do some pretty strong damage with Primarina, I guess, with the Throat Spray boost. The Blood Moon or Saluna can do some good damage. Dragonite Scale Shot will hurt, but overall it's like not really like a mon that really just sticks out that's going to be like, oh, this mon can just immediately sweep the board. It's just like, okay, you have some really good tools. You have redirection, you have taunt, you have haze, you have a tailwind for speed control, you have yawn to disrupt your opponent, and of course you have sword sense on your sneezer, you have drum beating for more speed control. It's just a very interesting team. So congrats to Sierra for top cutting the Milwaukee Regional Championship at 7th seed. And then finally, 8th place was Raleigh Factura with a rain team, which features Pelipper with the Ghost Terra with Tailwind, Focus Sash, Choice Band, Grass Terra, Basket Legion, which is nice to help out against Amoonguss and any powder moves. You have the Solvez or Chalon with the Bug Terra, which is pretty standard. The Citrus Berry Incineroar with Grass Terra to help out against Amoonguss. You have the Como with Throat Spray, which is the unique part here, with Fairy Terra to help out against the Dragonite. So you're immune to Scale Shot, and then you can actually fire damage with Aura Spear and Clangorous or Clang Scale. So if you don't know, Clang Scale is strong dragon type attack that is spread, but it's also sound move. However, it does lower the physical defense of the user every time you use it. And then Clangor Soul sacrifices 33% of your HP in order to get a +1 to every single stat that you have. And with Throat Spray, it gets a +1 special attack after a sound move. That combo means if you use Clangor Soul, you get a +2 at the end of the turn. And then Clang Scales, if you use it, you do also get the Throat Spray activation after that. So multiple ways to set up the Como. Very interesting. It does help out quite a bit into some mons, especially just having initial damage output against, for instance, the Dragonites, the Ursalunas in the format, and Incineroar, good into Rillaboom because of its natural typing. King Gambit, which can help out. So a lot of mons that the Como can hit. And Covert Cloak, Terra Psychic, Amoonguss, which is really good into side spam specifically because you can pretty much live every single double up other than Male Entity, Helping Hand next to the Terra Dark, Sneeze or Throat Shot. But across the board, you do live every other double up otherwise. So it makes sense. Covert Cloak, of course, to help out against like Fake Out, Flinches, and more. And yeah, it's a pretty standard Amoonguss otherwise. Then we have like Christopher Hahn also running the same team that we saw, like again from Leonard, the Zine team that was able to finish 9th place. Then in 10th place, we have the team that, or kind of similar, I suppose, because it's a bit different. You have like a similar team to what we saw Joe Ugarte bring in the early format to the Victory Road with Choice Scarf Tyranitar, which is a bit different because normally we would see a Solvest, but Choice Scarf Tyranitar is definitely different. With Focus Sash, Stellar, Excadrill with 3 attacks, 2 ground type moves, and Iron Head. Citrus Berry, Terra Electric, Amoonguss. I guess the Electric Terra type is, again, still really strong. It helps out against resisting the Make It Rain, as well as the flying type attacks that Amoonguss would be weak to. Has the Clear Smog over the Pollen Puff, but that makes sense to get rid of, like, this is probably going to be your Dundozel answer because the rest of the team does not like Dundozel at all. You have this support Corviknight, which is pretty interesting with the Bulk Up Tailwind and then Body Press with Brave Bird. That's leftovers. The Hydreigon with this Life Orb, just 3 attack set with Fire Blast, and then a Solvest Incineroar with Grass Terra. Pretty standard otherwise, but yeah, definitely cool team. You do have like a fast mode that you have with the Tyranitar Excadrill that can just Earthquake freely against a lot of your team because you do have Levitate, you have this Terra Flying on the Tyranitar, and then you have the Corviknight. So you have this offensive mode. You also have the Bulk Up Corviknight that can slow things down with Incineroar Amoonguss. And Hydreigon is a pretty strong special attacker in this team. So cool to see there that was able to finish in the 10th place. We have Kalen Brown, who was able to finish in 11th place. We've seen this Hydreigon kind of balanced team before. It's just taking over like what we've seen from the Flamingo ones. I think this team also did well in one of the Victory Roads that we've talked about previously. But the only really big difference here is it's actually going to be the Metal Cove Golden Go instead of the Life Orb. And it's Fairy Terra on the Porygon 2 for Fairy Terra Blast instead of the Fighting Terra Blast that we commonly see. But I guess King Gambit did kind of drop off in the format, although it did kind of have some good performances here. So really cool to see. Otherwise, like Terrifier, Covert Cloak, Amoonguss has been used before. Standard 3 attacks Guts Ursaluna, the safety goggles Hydreigon that's really good into like again Incineroar, Amoonguss, and the Golden Gold teams, and you do have your own Incineroar with the Citrus Berry, Ghost Terra. So I was able to get 11 seed. Erich, I don't know how to pronounce this name. More Sand, which was interesting. A very more offensive capability team. Same Stellar, Focus Sash, Excadrill with Sandrush, Assault Vest Tyranitar with Flying Terra, the Side Spam mode with Choice Scarf, Male Entity alongside the Psychic Seed, Sneasler. The only interesting part is it's Stellar Terra instead of the Dark Terra, which is actually a weaker Throat Chop into Golden Goes, but that does power the close combat and dire claws if necessary, alongside the Mouse Ape combination. So you have like a bunch of 2/2 leads with Tyranitar Excadrill, you have Male Entity Sneasler, and then you have the Annihilate plus the Mouse Ult. So definitely interesting there. You have a bunch of lead guessings, but if you do guess wrong, it can be pretty devastating on the back foot because all of these Mons are generally pretty fast and can rip through certain Mons if not prepared for. And you do have, of course, Psychic Terrain that you have to worry about. And yeah, a lot of speed in general with the Unburdened Sneasler as well as the Sandrush Excadrill. And then finally, we have Ethan here, who was able to finish as the last seed of Top Cut with pretty much what we saw earlier from Renzo. That was from the Bella Regional Championship with the Choice Scarf Basket Legion with Terra Water that is able to hit pretty hard. The Electric Terra, Blood Moon Ursaluna. I think this team is a little bit different actually. The Basket Legion was not on the team, and actually it was Alolan Ninetales. It's just it was Sneasler over the Basket Legion, but yeah, running the Basket Legion with that Water Terra type, the adaptability that's able to hit pretty hard against the Fire type mons that the team can struggle a little bit otherwise. You have the Encore Auroraville, Alolan Ninetales, Safety Goggles, Taunt Ensign, with Assault Vest, Rillaboom, Quiver Dance, Grassy Seed, Volcarona, and the, again, as I mentioned before, the leftovers, Terra Electric, Blood Moon. So across the board, pretty standard setup, the Volcarona generally team. And yeah, you have a bunch of Disruption, a bunch of good Mons in general. So not surprising to see a good placement here. Then we have like general stuff that I think we've commonly seen throughout the format. A few Magmars were actually pretty popular here, I suppose, to do well. We have a really crazy team by Michael Zhang, which this one is nuts because he finished in the top 32 featuring Focus Sash, Meowscarada with 3 attacks, low kick. We have a Sulfest Metagross with Terra Flying, Mirror Herb Fighting Mirror Herb Paldea Blaze with Grass Terra type with Will-O-Wisp. We have Citrus Berry, Liquid Voice Primarina with Haze, Covert Cloak Hydreigon with Terra Poison, and the Violite Magmar. So this is definitely a crazy team because a lot of the team usage is not ones we would see, but Michael showing us, yeah, this format still has room for innovation, and only he can really pilot a team like this because this one is absolutely crazy. But you do have some fast mons. You have like general bulk as well. You have pretty good offensive capabilities in general with like Meowscarada, the Hydreigon, again, really good fast mons for this format. So is the Tauros, the Primarina. Just really, really good offensively. Great coverage. And Metagross, I think, has always been a mon that has kind of been underrated in Regulation Age. It's really good into Psy Spam, for instance, like the Sneasler plus the Indies, especially if you have Intimidate. This one isn't Intimidate, unfortunately, but otherwise, like, is able to take the close combats or the throw chops after Intimidate, and then, like, with its high physical defense, and then you quad resist the Expanding Force. Metagross is actually a pretty decent mon, but we just don't really see it too much anymore because otherwise, like Golden Go, King Gambit, or Chalon have just kind of outclassed Metagross as a steel type. But I do think Metagross has kind of had a niche that has been available to it. So that was Michael Zhang's team. We've also seen Kylan using his Dundozo team that he's kind of been using for most of the format. I don't know if there's like any specific changes, but was able to perform well here with the Covert Cloak Dundozo, with Terra Steel Heavy Slam that's able to +2 Terra Steel Heavy Slam, if I'm not mistaken, is able to Oko an Amoonguss if it doesn't have like a huge amount of physical defense investment. We have Sash, Tatsugiri, Support Volcarona, Power Herb, Terra Grass, or Chalon, which definitely is not one I've seen before, with Safety Goggles, Annihilate with Coaching for the Dragonite, and I guess you could do with the Dundozo as well if you need to, with Final Gambit for trade, and then Scale Shot, Extreme Speed, Haze, Dragonite. So definitely a cool team by Kylan. If you don't know, was a top 16 finisher at the 2024 World Championship. So able to have a great performance here. More Dundozo in 19th place. The Zine team in 22nd place. My boy George Tifferman running the James Evans plus Aaron Zhang plus the Battle Stadium team. And yeah, across the board, I mean, there is a Lucario, which is pretty neat. Lucario did get top 32. It's a Focus Sash Lucario with Close Combat Meteor Mash. I guess that fighting coverage is really nice. Stellar Terra boosting the attack and then Inner Focus. I've actually tried out this team. It is just like a good old Tailwind offense team, right? You have the Gale Wings Talonflame with the Tailwind for priority. With Covert Cloak, you have the Terra Fairy, Garchomp with 3 attacks, Life Orb, Assault Vest Tyranitar with Choice Specs Golden Go. That's really able to do a lot of damage with Terra Steel Maker Rain. And then Sinisha, which I was kind of wondering what Sinisha was doing. I guess it like helps out against Ursaluna, like regular form, because otherwise this team could struggle into like Ursaluna and Trick Room. So I think it's for like opposing Trick Room matchup and specifically regular Ursaluna with Guts, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's just weird to see. I guess you could also get like Hospitality, get the Talonflame back to Gale Wings if possible, but I don't know how often you're doing it with this team. But it was really cool to see. And Adit was using this team, and did we talk about this team for Pittsburgh? I feel like I didn't talk about this team for Pittsburgh, but this is a team that I think finished top 32 at Pittsburgh, and Adit did as well. I thought I'm mixing up my timeline because I thought this was the original, but yeah, this is the team. So really cool to see. I guess Lucario gets 2 top 32 performances, but I also hope I'm pronouncing the name right because I'm like pretty sure I am. It's been a while. Then we have like some Sun Torkoal stuff in 26, and yeah. Otherwise, like this is the team that Wolf brought to one of the global / grand challenges in recently. It's Life Orb Slacking, a Covert Cloak Whimsicott, or not Whimsicott, Wheezing with Will-O-Wisp and Taunt, Choice Specs Kilowattrel, Focus Sash Mamoswine with Dundozo Tatsugiri. You have like a lot of offense with the Kilowattrel plus the Mamoswine. You have the Slacking Wheezing that's with the Neutralizing Gas can shut down abilities, and of course the Dundozo Tatsugiri mode. You got to prepare for all of them at the same time, so can be a very scary team to play around, especially in best of 1 if you don't know the sets. But yep, and yeah, like let's scroll down a bit because like Kanto Ninetales, we talked about Rajan's team before, which was able to do well, and I don't remember if he top cut exactly, but he did do really well at the Pittsburgh Regional Championship. It's just slipping my mind if he top cut that regional, but he did use the Kanto Ninetales. I think he changed the team a bit because I don't remember the Dragapult on this team. I'm pretty sure it was something different, but Choice Band Dragapult kind of made a reappearance here. Life or Blood Moon Ursaluna, I do remember. And then I don't remember if there was Sinisha, but still the Chlorophyll Whimsicott, which of course does have that Tailwind and Encore, and you can actually threaten a Prankstermon like the Incineroar, and sometimes players will forget. So there is that. And yeah, like there were quite a few Zoroarks. Like for instance, Zoroark in 40th place with Dundozo, but that kind of makes sense, right? Because Dundozo is in a mon that you really showcase your ability. It was the Choice Specs Hisui Zoroark, and you can really disguise yourself as the Dundozo. You can also disguise yourself as the Dragonite, and you can play like a lot of mind games. And if they get a call wrong, that Choice Specs Dundozo can actually do a ton of, or Choice Specs Zoroark, not Dundozo, will do a ton of damage to you. So that is something. Vivian, which we've seen before in the format in Regulation Age Part 1, was able to do well, getting 41st place with a 9-3 record. We saw Elise Johnson, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, with the Oricorio plus the Quiverdance. That was a pretty big match in day 1, if I'm not mistaken, which was against Sierra in day 1 of the regional stream. They did showcase the match between Elise and Sierra, and yeah, the Quiverdance Dancer with the Oricorio alongside the Cloud9 Golduck for the weather, which is pretty important against sun and the rain teams. You do have the Simple Beam that could give the Volcarona the +2, so it can get +2 boost off the Quiver Dance, and the Fiery Dance special attack boost. You have the Dancer Oricorio, which of course just allows it to use an extra move if there is a dance move being utilized, so Quiver Dance is pretty helpful. Then you have things like the Focus Sash, Fake Out, Support Sneasler to help enable the Oricorio. You have Incineroar, and you have the Screens, Grimmsnarl. All again, a lot of this team is focusing on setting up this Oricorio and this Volcarona specifically. So really cool team from Elise, and was able to have a really strong day 2 performance here. Then like I know there was like way more Zoroarks. I remember a lot of Zoroarks. Yeah. Aaron Trailer was able to go 8-4 with the same team that Wolf brought. I believe Aaron Trailer, Wolf, and Yuki also used the same team. I don't remember we saw Yuki already here, but yeah. Then we had Jimmy Frida also running like Politoed with Hisuian Bravier. I think I've seen this team before, but I can't really remember too much. But Choice Scarf, Tinted Lens, Expanding Force, in Psychic Terrain with Psychic Terra. Definitely going to hurt a lot with offensive capabilities from the Sneasler and support from the Inity Femo with the Flame Orb Ursaluna that can threaten a lot. This Politoed's Mystic Water with Fire Terra, with Weather Ball, Muddy Water. I think the Fire Terra is both defensive but also can be utilized offensively against the Sun team. And the Assault Vest Archaudon. Definitely a cool offensive team that can use the Inity plus this Sneasler. And then you have this Expanding Force, especially from this Bravier, which hurts. And I mean hurts. And then you also have like a Trick Room thing you can do with Ursaluna as well. And I'm trying to think because Yuki was able to finish 57th, 8-4 with the Zoroark as well. And yeah, there's another Zoroark at 62. I knew that there was a lot of Zoroark. There's 5 Zoroark at least here. And this seems crazy, man. This finished 62 place with Assault Vest, Blood Moon Ursaluna with Ghost Terra, Mirror Urban Incineroar with Protect. We have Life Orb Toxtricity with normal terrestrialization with the Boom Burst with Punk Rock, which increases the sound moves, with the Covert Cloak Noivern with Telepathy to dodge the Boom Burst, and can damage with Super Fang, Tailwind, Taunt for any control. Focus Sash, Zoroark, which can disguise itself as again one of the Ursalunas. Maybe the it could disguise itself as one of the Toxtricity or the Noivern is definitely a thing. And then Malamar, which ended up against Dondozo, but yeah, it's a crazy team. I don't know what to really say because yeah, a lot of mons you just don't commonly see, but definitely cool. You do have this again, Ghost Terra on the Blood Moon Ursaluna, so you could go for also the Boom Burst Terra Normal next to, well, actually you couldn't really go for Terra Normal because he would Terra the Blood Moon Ursaluna, but you could go for like the Boom Burst next to your Ursaluna. I suppose that could be effective. But yeah, and then you have like speed control with this Zoroark, and the Stellar Terra Blast option is definitely not one I've seen. And then the Fake Tears option as well to get a surprise knockout disguising the Zoroark is something you would not expect, like that Noivern or the Toxtricity or even the Blood Moon, for example. So really cool team. I think that's the last Noivern. Otherwise, like you see Quaquaval here. Blake Silver's used Quaquaval in the past on Rain. I remember him using this in Regulation Age Part 1. Stellar Focus Sash set. So pretty standard Rain team otherwise. And then yeah, we have Stefan using the same team he used, I believe. I mean, he had a Clodsire this time, which I don't know why the Clodsire specifically for. I really don't, but it has like he's just tried a bunch of different like Yawn Mons in the Clods, or what was it before? He in the Sylveon slot, because he won with Sylveon, went Dondozo in Pittsburgh to get day 2, and now it's Clodsire. I don't know why. So there's that. We saw a Dusclops and Flora team, which is Trick Room oriented, that was able to finish 80th place. I think this is a Battle Stadium ladder team, if I'm not mistaken. It's like Choice Specs Solar Power, right? Or like Life Orb Solar Power. Yeah, it makes sense. On a hard Trick Room team with Dusclops. It's actually funny because he's running Frisk, they're running Frisk. David Cook running the Frisk Dusclops in the Open Team Sheet format. If you don't know, Pressure Dusclops is going to be your standard in Open Team Sheet because you already see the items, right? So you go for Pressure to stall out power points, which can be more effective in games, especially like Blood Moon or Saluna. They'd be down to 6 power points immediately. So there is that, but yeah, another Zoroark also. Yeah, there's another Zoroark, 88th place with the Choice Specs as well. Terra Normal to blow things up. You could disguise it, I guess, as a Como or the Electabuzz, which would catch him off guard. You could also disguise as Sinisha, I suppose, because you could. Well, you can't even bait Trick Room because this isn't Trick Room Sinisha, but yeah, you could disguise yourself as one of the more supportive options, or your Setamon, and if they guess wrong, you get blown up by a Choice Specs normal type attack, I suppose. But that is the Milwaukee Regional Championship. And then there's a Cypher. I didn't know Bezard used Cypher. If you don't know, Bezard was the player who did win the Vancouver Regional Championship, running Cypher with dual wing beats, close combat, tailwind, protect. The other mons aren't like super crazy. You have Sturdy, Archaludon, Focus Sash, Basky Legion, Safety Goggles, Instant, and then Life for Blood Moon or Saluna with Ferrograph of Armor Tail. But yeah, that's definitely a cool mod to see. Definitely his take on a tailwind team, which is kind of similar to the rain team we've seen before, but yeah, definitely an interesting take on it. And I am not doing well on time. I've kind of been going over. Let's start speeding things up, I suppose. We had the Lille Regional Championship up next, which was in France. And I guess there was technically a weekend without Pokemon. And then this was like 2 weeks after the other two events. So Marco Silva running Rabombi. And I know Marco and Dill ended up using the same team with this Rabombi. They both brought the exact same 6. And I think it was the exact same pace. So yeah, really cool team to see. We have a Focus Sash Rabombi, and the reason why you run Rabombi over, like, let's say Whimsicott for the priority tailwind is one, Rabombi has the Shield Dust ability, which means you can play around the Fake Out, which is pretty solid, while also having access to that Focus Sash, which, depending on the situation, can be value. Like, you have both options kind of covered. Then you also have like Fast Fake Tears, which is pretty important because the thing is with Whimsicott, you can't go for fake tears into, like, let's say a Golden Goal, right? While with Rabombi, you absolutely can. So that's a big deal when you're going with a lead like Life Orb Golden Goal with Power Gem. The idea is to go for fake tears, Power Gem, and Cody Incineroar. I think a Solvest Incineroar probably lives this, but if it's not a Solvest, you get the KO immediately, and that could be a really big deal. So that's the idea. You can also like fake tears a Tyranitar and any other Dark Terras or in general. So yeah, you actually have options for that. Also, the Moonblast does do a lot of damage from Rabombi. It actually does a pretty significant amount. So that's what's cool about Rabombi. The 3 attacks, Golden Go with the Terra Steel, Make It Rain. Really impressive with the fake tears. And of course, you have Pokemon like the Blood Moon Ursaluna. That's with a Solvest, can take an attack. Also super threaten hard with the attack next to the fake tear strap. Como is definitely an interesting mod. We don't really see it again as much. Just running 3 attacks, Throw Spray with no Clanger Soul. Just going on the offense. Overcoat's really cool. It's really good into Sun. Having that fighting coverage for King Gambit's nice, that this team can be a bit weak to. So having coverage for that. And then the Fire Terror to help out against powering the Flamethrower. Good into the Sun teams because the Overcoat is just great against Sleep Powder. It's good into like the Spore stuff as well. And ignores the redirection. So can be really solid there. Or Spirit to hit the Blood Moon Ursalunas and the regular Ursalunas, I suppose. Yeah, it has really good coverage here. Then the last two to fill things out, a multi-skill Dragonite. Why not? Multi-skill Dragonite's nice. Extreme speed to clean up weakened foes. You don't need haze on this team because you can play around Dondozo with fake tears with Bombi, and we saw Marco do that on stream before with the fake tears with Bombi. That was able to help clean up against the Dondozo. And then Covert Cloak Incineroar to play around fake outs, so you don't have to worry about fake outs. Probably going to be an offensive set with the Fire Terra with Flare Blitz. No Parting Shot or U-Turn. It is Protect because I guess it does help out against like Trick Room teams if you can't deny the Trick Room, but also the fact that you don't really need to be switching with this team because in a lot of cases you're going with more offensive capabilities with the Rabombi, I think, in a lot. So this team isn't really about switching. It's more like putting on offensive pressure for the most part. I don't think you're really switching too much with this team. So I think Protect makes a lot of sense there. So that was Marco's team. Then we have Edu, who is running a team similar again to the Manuela team. It has a lot of the classic staples. You have the Flying Terra, Grassy Seed, Sneezer with Sword Stance, the Assault Vest Standard Rillaboom, the Water Nasty Plot, Life Orb Golden Go, and the Safety Goggles Incineroar. Where it really changes though is you have the Blood Moon Ursaluna with leftovers, but it's not running Yawn. It is running Calm Mind instead. And I've used Calm Mind on the Emanuela team, and I think it's fantastic because even though there's some downsides to not having to sleep on this build, it makes sense because you allow the Blood Moon Ursaluna to be another potential sweeper. It's great into like some Trick Room teams. It's good into Weather teams. The Calm Mind can really just allow the Ursaluna Blood Moon to be an absolute monster, especially with Intimidate support. Really hard to stop once it gets going. And what helps enables this Blood Moon Ursaluna? Going to be that Smeargle. This Smeargle is running the Focus Sash, which is just allowing it to survive a really strong hit. You can Spore because a lot of the Dragonites in the format tend to be adamant. They don't really tend to be jolly. And because of that, you can run the Spore Smeargle, outspeed those, go for Spore. And Edu has told me the reason why you run Smeargle is because it's a mon that can help out against Dragonite because they're all adamant, so you can go for the Spore. And you also have a matchup into Rain because you have a Focus Sash Follow Me mon. You have Tailwind for speed control support. And yeah, you have quite a bit that the Smeargle can accomplish. And it's really helping to enable probably the Golden Go in most cases, but you can help enable the Blood Moon Ursaluna and the Sneasler on this team. So definitely a really cool attack on this team, and Edu was able to finish second place at this regional championship. In third place, we have Giuseppe, who is a player coming off a top 16 worlds finish and is running pretty much the same thing, kind of like an Emanuela team, except for replacing the Ninetales because people are like, Ninetales isn't so great. Instead, going with the Dragonite over the Ninetales. We have the standard Life Orb, Nasty Plot, Life Orb, Golden Go, Safety Goggles, Incineroars, Grassy Seed, Flying Terra, Sneasler with the Assault Vest, Rillaboom, and the Terra Electric, Yawn, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, and then we just have standard Dragonite instead because it also can deal okay into the Rain matchup, which can help. And of course, having speed control for this team is very nice. I feel like I've been talking about this kind of team forever, so yeah, this is his build, and it is still a pretty strong version. All right, in fourth place, after a break, I needed something for my throat. I've been recording for 3 hours straight because I've been recording stuff before the Baekfast Club. Was Jay with a very interesting Dondozo team that features Weavile. So let me just say, the guts of this man running triple axle on the no wide lens. If you don't know, triple axle is a 90% accurate move, and it actually accuracy checks for each hit. So you can hit the first one and then it'll have its accuracy checked for a second one, and you can miss the second one. So that's why a lot of players do opt for loaded, or not loaded dice, wide lens on triple axle, because it makes it way more likely to hit. 99% is like way better than 90 per hit. And yeah, like that is quite a statement, bringing triple axle with no load dice. Reminds me of Mr. Joey Pokey MMD. Shout out to SPL if you have not seen it. But yes, running otherwise, you have this Dondozo Tatsugiri mode, standard Dondozo with Terra Grass leftover, safety goggles, Terra Fairy Tatsugiri is not like too surprising. And then you have like this other modes that you have. You have the Rain mode with the Choice Scarf Pelipper that can power up also the Wave Crash on the Dondozo and I guess the Muddy Water and Tatsugiri, alongside standard Assault Vest Challenge, just running Fighting Terra for the body press, but otherwise still really powerful. Then you have this Weavile plus Annihilate mode where you have like a really offensive Annihilate with close combat, not Drain Punch, not even setup. It is just for the immediate beat up that you can do with Weavile next to your Annihilate and really dish out a ton of damage with that Rage Fist, or just go for the close combat immediately, or taunt to disrupt your opponent. And yeah, Weavile is really cool. Of course, it is a very fast Icemon, and it is able to do a lot with that fast knockoff and the triple axle that can be really disruptive, and of course to beat up into Annihilate. And you have fake out support. Yeah, it's a really cool mon to see. So awesome to see Jay do well with this combination. It is very, very offensive, and you do have to kind of guess like targets right. I think in the case where I think Marco was able to get the better calls, but this team does have some pretty big pressure that you can do from the leads right off the bat, and you always have to respect the Dondozo if the Dragonite. And the thing is, Weavile is really cool on that team because Age Dragonite is so common, because you do run the triple axle, you can kind of force a terrestrialization from the Dragonite and threaten it immediately. So they have to really worry about the terrestrializations, and if they tear out of that, you do have like the Wave Crash, you have your Chaladon, you have your beat up Rage Fist that you can do. Yeah, there's quite a bit, and you still have to worry about fake outs. So next in fifth place is going to be a team we've seen before with the Covert Cloak, Fairy Terrestrialization, Quiver Dance, Volcarona, Leftovers, Yawn, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, Auroraville, Encore, Sash, Alolan Ninetales, the Assault Vest Rillaboom, the Ghost Terra on the Incineroar Taunts to help out against Amoonguss, and the Adaptability Basket Legion Wave Crash, which we have seen before. It is still a pretty strong option. In sixth place, we have kind of an interesting take on. I mean, basically, this is the Zine team, but you just have Covert Cloak, Alolan, and Ninetales over the Dragonite. You still have your standard Bulk Up, Annihilate with Citrus Berry, Miracle Seed, Rillaboom, Assault Vest, Water Terra, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, Sash, Support Mousehold, as well as the Life Orb, Water, Golden Go, and then it's just Covert Cloak, Ninetales over the Dragonite because it has Icy Wind, Speed Control. You do have Encore and Aurora Veil, which can help support the team. So it is pretty neat in that aspect. So really interesting to see there. And in seventh place, we have, I remember this team, but I don't know. I remember Michael Kelshi using this in a global challenge or grand challenge. I don't know if he was the one who built this team though, but it is the Assault Vest Tyranitar with Life Orb, 3 attacks, Garchomp, Covert Cloak on the Amoonguss with Pollen Puff and Fairy Terastallization. The Golden Go is Flying Terra, which is definitely nice on this team to help out against ground coverage. Running the Iron Plate since you do have the Life Orb on the Garchomp. Focus Sash, Kilowatcher with Competitive to scare away the Intimidates, and otherwise the Safety Goggles in Cineroar. So it's a sand team that can put on a lot of pressure. You do have like the Garchomp Kilowatcher lead, Golden Go that can set up with Incineroar and Amoonguss, and of course the Sand combination from the Tyranitar. You're not running Sandvale Garchomp, which is thankful to the opponents of this team, but across the board, just pretty good general Mons like that can put on a lot of offensive pressure and have some pretty good speed. Then we have in 8th place, which is a crazy team, which I think the pilot, which I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name, has actually featured before in Regulation H Part 1 with this Focus Sash, Kilowattrel, the Garchomp combination again, Discharge, Earthquake, Terra, Ground, Life Orb, Garchomp with 3 attacks, Choice Scarf, Hisuian Typhlosion with Sleep Talk for Amoonguss Spore. You have the Assault Vest Incineroar that can pivot around, and then you have that Choice Specs Galarian Weezing, which is able to do a ton of damage with the Water Terastallization, Terra Blast even, and then this Covert Cloak Toadscruel that can pair well with the Neutralizing Gas on the Weezing, because you do have the Spore and the Acid Spray combination, as well as Redirection with the Rage Powder. So very unique team, and it was really cool to see, and it was able to finish 8th place there. And yeah, this is super disruptive with that Fast Spore from Toadscruel, base 100 speed, able to outspeed a lot of the format, and with the Neutralizing Gas, you shut down the ability that would make Spore a negative priority move in the case, but because you have the Neutralizing Gas, you can shut down that ability and get a really fast Spore off that's hard to stop. Otherwise, you have like really good offense too. Then Federico running the team that is, I trying to remember which player had this team because we've seen quite a bit of rain teams before, but it's like the Pelipper, Basculegion, or Archaludon, and then it's running Sinistcha, Incineroar, and Ursaluna. I don't think I really have to go over this. It's just this Archaludon's more attuned to the classic Elizabeth one with the Sinistcha, but across the board, still a really strong one. Normal Terastallization Pelipper is really interesting, which I'm assuming it's specifically for Golden Go Shadow Ball, and that allows you to wide guard in front of the Golden Go because Shadow Ball, otherwise the Pelipper, you can't hit the Pelipper while it's going for wide guard and normal Terastallize. So I think this is the reason for this Pelipper. I guess it could also be for Rage Fist Annihilate, but I'm like pretty confident it's for the Golden Go specifically situation, which is actually pretty cool because you have like Pelipper next to Ursaluna, for example, you could wide guard and block to make it rain, and the Shadow Ball can't hit either of these Pokemon with that normal Terastallization. So I think it is pretty neat. Then we have Marcus, who has used this team before. I think we featured in a grand challenge, or not, I didn't feature on the channel, but we've talked about it in the last Baekfast Club. I think this top 8 grand challenge, except it has like special Talonflame instead with Life Orb, Ursaluna with Ghost Terra, the Fairy Terastallization, Talonflame. You have the Entity plus the Sneasler Terra Dark, 3 attack Psychic Seed, Unburden set, the Focus Sash Male Entity with Fake Out, which is, you might be thinking, why Fake Out on a Psychic Terrain Mon? Of course, it's for the non-Mons that, you know, are either Force of Terra, that are Flying type or Levitating, or like in case I guess you expect a Rillaboom switch, you can go for the Fake Out, I suppose, and really disrupt them. But yeah, otherwise you don't really use Terra Blast too much on Entity. So Fake Out as the extra option definitely makes sense. And then standard leftovers, Dundozo, as well as Safety Goggles, Terra Fairy, Tatsugiri. And yeah, really cool to see there. We have Stefano running a pretty similar team. I mean, it's pretty much what we see here. I mean, it's kind of like, I guess this is going to be the Zine team, but you replace a Mousel this time with a Covert Cloak Alolan Ninetales with Fire Terra for to make it rain, as well as a strong fire type moves that could come out into the Alolan Ninetales. You have Icicle Spear to be able to hit through your Annihilate, although you are playing kind of a game because Icicle Spear minimum 2 times, maximum 5 times. You could be getting a really good one or a really bad one. You have Aurora Veil, you have Icy Wind, and you have Blizzard, which is neat. Otherwise, standard Water, Blood Moon with Assault Vest, Goggles, Fire, Annihilate with Bulk Up, Loaded Dice, Fairy, Dragonite, Life Orb, Water, Golden Go, and the Miracle Seed, Fire, Rillaboom. So that makes sense there. The next team is going to be Sebastian using the Marco Fierro LIC team from the first part of Regulation H, the Fighting Terra Porygon 2, the Water Incineroar with the Eject Pack Torkoal or the Overheat, so you can get a free switch and pivot around for like Charizard or Ursaluna to come in freely and activate that Flame Orb on the Ursaluna, especially the Choice Specs Charizard with Terra Ghost just really hits hard. And then that Covert Cloak Jumpluff with Sunny Day to set up the weather, Encore, Sleep Powder, Tailwind. Yeah. It is a team we have talked about several times in Regulation H. And then finally, the last team that was able to top cut, which we did see, I think, earlier in the tournament, it's going to be Focus Sash, Encore, Aurora Veil, Ninetales, Electric Terra, Blood Moon, Ursaluna with the Yawn and Leftovers, Solvest Rillaboom, Safety Goggles, Incineroar with Taunt, the Grassy Seed Volcarona, and the Water Daltabi Basculegion. It isn't something that we haven't seen already before. And then, like across the board, I think a lot of teams we have seen previously. Again, we have already noted like a bunch of the teams that we have seen earlier. I mean, there was a Darkspun, I suppose, that did get 18th place, which is definitely a bit interesting with the Life Orb Stellar Rillaboom. It's actually funny because I remember this being a Grand Challenge team. But yeah, Life Orb Stellar Rillaboom, I think it's max speed if I'm not mistaken, because the higher horsepower can get some surprise knockouts. Covert Cloak Jumpluff, the Darkspun with the well-baked body, which gives it a +2 defense boost when hit by a fire move, and also it ignores the damage taken from the fire move. So you go for Lava Plume with your Torkoal or your Typhlosion, and then you have a Solvest King Gamma with Fairy Terra to play around the fire type attacks, and the Terra Blast Terra Fairy is actually really neat. So I did not know that team actually made it to the to almost the top cut stage, which is kind of crazy. Dill also, again, with Marco, just was one game away from the top cut. Nils Dunlop running the Kilowattrel Balance team, more of the Dundozo stuff. I mean, again, a lot of these teams, not anything we haven't seen in the format before. We see a Glamora, which is interesting. More Trick Room stuff. Serena, I guess, for the priority blocker. And yeah, I mean, like a lot of these teams, as I said before, not anything too crazy. We've seen a lot of these Pokemon be utilized before in Regulation Age and a lot of the compositions we have talked about. So like even Jacob's team, which has the Toadscrew Weezing with the Comfey, we talked about in a previous regional championship where he has day 2'd. Cleaver, I guess, was able to get 73rd place here with Clear Amulet. So he had the hazards for the opposing Volcarona, which is kind of neat. But and the Mirror Herb Salamence with Fairy Terra. Guess that's for the Scale Shot. Dragonite has Sunny Day as well, which is that's a crazy attack for rain and to power up your Volcarona. That's definitely an interesting one here. And you also have Giga Drain Volcarona. It's not even Fairy on the Volcarona, so definitely something. Definitely something I'm interested in. But yeah, like a lot of these teams, again, we have talked about them, or you would have seen them in Regulation H already. I think we'll move on to the Brisbane and the Gdansk Regional Championship, which happened in the same weekend here. So let's start off with the Brisbane Regional Championship. And yeah, Japan dominated. If you don't know, a classic thing that's been happening recently with the auto invite situation is Japan has been kind of flying over to Australia because Japan qualification system is quite different and very, very challenging. So we've had a few players from the Japan region fly out to different stages. We've had for instance, at NIC, several Japan players flew out to try and get top 4 at the North American International Championship to try and secure a last minute invite. And one of them was successful. So yeah, we're seeing that story once again with both finalists being from Japan. We have Kaito, who is also known as UB Slow Online, who was the 2023 Japan National Champion and was able to win with Kilowatt Balance. And it's pretty much a standard Kilowatt Balance. You have a few small changes, which is going to be your Fairy, Terrasilize Ursaluna, which is kind of neat for the Scale Shot Dragonite to also still resist to fighting and be neutral to like several types. The only thing is you don't have like a fake out immunity, which Ghost Terra was for, but it's pretty interesting to see here. And then really defensive Golden Go. This was a really bulky Golden Go if you haven't seen the set. And if you haven't seen the set, go check out the bonus channel, which I will either have uploaded or will upload a video about the reaction to the finals between Kaito and Yuya. And this Golden Go was super slow and super bulky. It had a Guava Berry, which can heal the Golden Go when it gets below 25% of HP. And yeah, this Golden Go was quite different from your standard like Life Orb max speed Golden Goes. It was really being able to tank attacks quite well. So this was Kaito's team. Pretty standard otherwise. I've talked about. I think I'm not going to repeat like a lot of the general stuff for the listeners because I've been talking about and repeating sets, I feel like, for a long time. So if there's anything new, I will talk about it. But yeah, otherwise refer to the older teams. We have Yuya Tada, though. Definitely a bit of more of an interesting rain team because it's not like the standard rain team. Some of the mons you don't commonly see on rain. You have Pelipper, Basque Legion, or Chalon. Makes sense on rain. You see Sinistra sometimes on rain. You don't really see the combination of Blood Moon or Saluna, though, and Farigiraf on standard rain. So this is where it kind of uniquely differs, where it has Stellar Terra, Pelipper with Focus Sash and Tailwind. Twist Band, Basque Legion, Water Terra, that's pretty standard. Assault Vest or Chalodon, this one running Snarl and opting it for Flash Cannon. So it's actually quite interesting because Yuya's or Chalodon is actually really fast. I think it's like timid max speed or like pretty fast to outspeed at least like max speed Golden Go, because I'm pretty sure our Chalodon always outsped Golden Goes on stream. And that's a pretty big deal. So you can go for Snarls before then. And then you have Farigiraf with Armor Tail to prevent like the fake outs or sucker punches that could happen to the priority on the Basque Legion or the Archalon, which is very interesting. You had the Blood Moon or Saluna, which I think was like slow. I think it was like mid speed because it undersped Kaito's Porygon 2 in, or it outsped Porygon 2 in Trick Room. So yeah, I think it was like mid speed. And then you had the Sinistra as well, which can be nice into regular Ursaluna. You have the recovery that you can do with the Archalon, bring the recovery to the Basque Legion that's doing a lot of recoil to itself, as well as to bring the Focus Sash back to Pelipper. So I think it's a pretty neat one. Redirection, Trick Room, always appreciated. So yeah, it was definitely an interesting one with Mental Herb, Farigiraf with Psychic Dazzling Gleam, helping hand support, and Trick Room. So yeah, 2 Trick Room users for the Blood Moon Ursaluna, but can also provide utility with their abilities for the rest of the team. Really a bunch of like offensive capabilities with the Basque Legion, especially in the Blood Moon Ursaluna that can delete teams. So very, very unique take on the rain stuff. Third place, we have Nicholas Khan with the Zine team, the Shohei team. I'm not going to repeat everything. I'm only going to say that it is Dragon Terra, Blood Moon Ursaluna, because I really don't want to repeat everything. My voice, I'm starting to lose it. I can feel something not great in my throat. So to save my time, and I've also been talking for like at least an hour 10, or maybe it's an hour 20. I can't tell because I've had some takes. It's even been longer actually. It's been like an hour 30 because I've had some fail takes. But yeah, we have pretty much the same team except the Terra type on the Blood Moon Ursaluna is Dragon, which is pretty interesting. So it's great into both Sun and Rain, but it's also like weaker into Dragonite in general. But it's nice because you have a type that can resist like Rillaboom Woodhammer, as well as again fire, water, and electric coverage, which is solid on the Blood Moon Ursaluna. Doesn't resist to Make It Rain, which can be a big deal. But yeah, otherwise pretty standard from Nicholas Khan. Had a phenomenal performance and I think was undefeated going into top 4 where he lost his first match. And unfortunately that was a match he would like to win, obviously, but that was the round of single elimination at that point. So that was Nick's team. Then we have The Emanuela team once again, Water Terra on the Incineroar, I guess, with Citrus Berry, but otherwise every single set is pretty much the same, except it's actually running a little bit different with the Blood Moon Ursaluna running the Calm Mind over the Yawn set, which I have talked about that it is pretty strong. And then the Alolan Ninetales is not running Protect, is opting for both Auroraville and Encore alongside Icy Wind and Blizzard. So same six, kind of same concept wise, except does have that Calm Mind Ursaluna, which can be more threatening and be more of a win condition mon. Then we have in 5th place, we have Joji, also known as Suika, a really strong player from Japan who is also like really dominant in the online global / grand challenge scene. And he definitely has a lot more accomplishments than that, but I'd say that's probably like the big ones that we can talk about that's really well known for. But yeah, running also the same team as Kaito, the same 6, but just the only difference really is going to be the Golden Go is going to be the Life Orb Dragon Terror, and you want to assume it is a faster Golden Go than the Guaberry set, or maybe it was also slow. I don't think we saw on stream if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, it's pretty much the Kilowatto balance stuff. It is the Kilowatto balance stuff. Then we have in 6th place, we have Lewis, who is running a general rain team that's pretty standard for the most part. Pelipper, Basket Legion, or Chaladon with the Incineroar, Sinistcha, Ursaluna. It has Snarl Incineroar, which is kind of interesting over like Flare Blitz or Taunt that we commonly see, but across the board, pretty standard. Maybe Dragon Pulse on the Archalon over Draco Meteor, but yeah, like nothing else I'd say really super stands out here. On this team, it's just good old rain. In 7th place, we have the Side Spam team that we saw earlier with the... I don't remember if it was Skill Swap on the original team. I actually don't remember if it was Skill Swap on the original team, but you basically get the same idea. This Trick Room team that features both Farigiraf and Hatterene. I'm blanking out on the name right now because, I've been recording for a long time. With Skill Swap Hatterene... Yeah, I mean, I've already talked about this team. I don't remember the Incineroar's Fighting Terror. Did I miss that detail in the original? But it might be something different. But yeah, Fighting Terra, close combat on Incineroar, clear amulet. But otherwise, I think every detail looks the same. It might be the same detail. I might have just forgot to talk about the Fighting Incineroar. But if I didn't say it, yeah, it's Fighting Incineroar. So that was able to do well and finish 7th place. And then in 8th place, we have Thomas with kind of an interesting one, really going all in on the Calm Mind or Blood Moon Ursaluna. Has the Grimmsnarl with Screens and Thunder Wave, or standard Citrus Berry Sinistcha with Life Dew and Hospitality to heal the Blood Moon. Then you have support mons like the Safety Goggles Instant and the Assault Vest Rillaboom. And then this stage is interesting because it's coaching, but there's not really a mon that takes advantage of the coaching. I guess it's Rillaboom and maybe Incineroar, but like those are generally support mons. So you're really only going for coaching the Rillaboom, or you're just going for coaching the Blood Moon Ursaluna so you get the defense boost, which is kind of interesting because even though you get the defense boost, a lot of Dragonites run Haze. So I'm kind of curious if that actually really works out against Haze Dragonite. But yeah, otherwise it's a really heavy setup. Go for the Calm Mind on the Blood Moon Ursaluna team. Then we have like Dundozo stuff in 9th place. We have like this really offensive rain team with Pelipper Kingdra alongside Serena, which is cool. Like Life Orb Kingdra with Stellar Terra, 3 attacks. You have Stellar Terra Pelipper. You have Wide Lens, Queenly Majesty, Terra Ice, Triple Axle, High Jump Kick, Serena with Power Up and Protect. Then you have like the standard Incineroar, Porygon 2, and the Ursaluna. So you have a few differences. It's running Terra Ground, Terra Blast on the Porygon 2, which is interesting, alongside substitute Ursaluna over Earthquake because you don't have really any ground immunities other than Pelipper. And then Safety Goggles Incineroar. So yeah, definitely an interesting take that Jack had here for 10th place at the event. Then we have like Salamence Dragapult with both Choice Scarf, Tailwind, Rock Slide, Dual Wing Beats, Breaking Swipe, Terra Steel, Moxie Salamence with Choice Band, Terra Ghost, Dragapult with Terra Blast, Covert Cloak, Support Volcarona with Struggle Bug, but it also has Quiver Dance, Ability Shield, Incineroar, which makes sense with the neutralizing gas on the Wheezing. But it's the Wheezing, no slacking or like any other mon, and then Assault Vest Standard, Blood Moon, Ursa Luna. This is a wild team because it's like, okay, Incineroar, Blood Moon, Ursa Luna, Volcarona, I guess with Curve Dance makes sense, and then you have like, yeah, then you just have this random Moxie Salamence. You have this Terra Ghost, Terra Blast, Dragapult that's just going on the offense, I suppose. And then you have this Wheezing with leftovers. So not really, don't know what to say here, but was able to do pretty well. I'm not going to try to dissect it too much because I have no idea like how I'd expect the team would play otherwise, other than like saying Curve Volcarona, and then maybe like blowing up teams with Dragapult and the Blood Moon Ursa Luna. And then in 12th place, we do have the team we've seen before: Scarf, Basket Legion, Leftovers, Yawn, Ursa Luna, Blood Moon, Focus Sash, Alolan Ninetales, Fairy, Covert Cloak, Volcarona, Quiver Safety Goggles, Taunt, Incin, and then Assault Vest, Rillaboom. All mons we've talked about, and I mean talked about. I think a lot of the cases you would see otherwise just general comments that we've talked about in the format, other than this incredible team from Daniel Walker, one of the most innovative team builders I think in Australia. Like, he's built some crazy stuff in the past. This time he's running special, I think, Mirror Herb, Terra Blast, Salamence with Ghost Terra. I don't know why Ghost Terra, Terra Blast on Salamence. Maybe it's for Annihilate. I mean, I don't know. I'm surprised it's not like Flying Terra. Then you have Rock Slide, Sneeze over Grass Terra, Focus Sash on Burden. You have Ghost Terra, Standard Ursa Luna, so we have something standard. Life Orb, Terra Steel, Nasty Plot, Golden Go. Not like the most uncommon thing to hear of. You have Thunderwave Mousehold. Thunderwave Mousehold with Follow Me and Population Bomb. It's Wildlands Technician 2. It's not the Friend Guard set. And then this Slow King with Acid Spray, Snarl, Chilly Reception, and Trick Room. I have no idea why this is here. I have no idea why this is here. Snarl, of course, for the special attack drop. Acid Spray, I guess in Trick Room you could go for like Acid Spray, make it rain, or maybe the Salamence is slow. I don't even know. Golden Go might not be max speed on this team, which would make sense. Chilly Reception, basically, if for any VGC players who don't really know singles, Chilly Reception, I think it summons the snow, and it's like a pivoting move. So you can pivot into your Ursa Luna with Flame Orb if necessary, or I guess like in some case, like any other mon. It's just a very unique team that only Daniel Walker will understand. But yeah, that was the Brisbane Regional Championship. Finally, we go into our final regional championship, which is going to be the Gdansk Regional Championship, which also occurred during the same time period. And pretty much another finals rematch, and I think it's the exact same pace. I don't know if it's the exact same pace, but I mean, it's a build we've seen before. We have Incineroar, Rillaboom, pretty standard. You have Safety Goggles with Incineroar with Taunt, and you also have the Assault Vest standard Rillaboom, Focus Sash, Alolan Ninetales. This one opting for Encore, Disable, Blizzard, and Protect. The Terra Electric, Blood Moon, Ursa Luna with Electric Terra type and Yawn. You have the Choice Scarf Basket Legion with Water Adaptability, and then Grassy Seed Volcarona with the Quiver Dance, and can really threaten heavy amount of damage with that Terra Blast, Terra Fairy option. So yeah, this was a team that Sanvi and Teotime did use to both get first and second place at this regional championship. It's been a really standard core recently, and yeah, it's really powerful. As you can see, the Volcarona is just really hard to get rid of, and the Alolan Ninetales having both Encore and Disable is going to be the difference here, where it's actually able to be like super disruptive, because if you need to pressure like your opponent that doesn't have speed control, that can outspeed the Ninetales, yeah, that Encore Disable, it can really trap you into a move unfavorably or prevent you from using your best move, which can be very awkward for time. So both of them I think ran the exact same version here. Then Juan Salerno using pretty much, it was like the Emanuela team that the Giuseppe was able to get third place at with the previous regional championship. So yeah, it's the exact same build here, not anything too much changing. I don't remember if it was Steel Dragon or if it was Fairy Terra that Giuseppe used, but yeah, pretty much the exact same team otherwise. Not uncommon. Then we have, I'm trying to remember how to pronounce his name because I feel like I'm going to butcher it, so I'm not going to attempt to. But in fourth place, we have Life Orb, Alolan Ninetales, Choice Scarf, Terra Fighting, Terra Blast, Basket Legion with Adaptability, a Violet Magmar with Sword Stance, Terrifier, King Gambit with the Asylvest, Rillaboom, and the Focus Sash, Poison Touch, Stellar, Sneasler. I think we've seen like this team basically do well. I don't think it was the Magmar. I think the Magmar is a different adjustment, but we have seen like this kind of team do well before. The Magmar Burn Jealousy is kind of cool because you can punish stuff like Dondozo on the switch in, unless it's Cover Cloak. And of course, like the Dragonites, that does go for like a scale shot boost. You can get the burn with the Burn Jealousy, which is pretty neat. We saw Eduardo also do that, I think, at the regional championship, like the first one, which was Frankfurt. So yeah, like it's pretty cool to see. You have like a lot of common Mons, I think. Otherwise, I think we've seen like Ale get like, I think it was 9th place if I'm not mistaken, or he bubbled out a cut for the regional championship that happened in Milwaukee. I think it was Milwaukee, with also pretty much a similar 5, except it had no Magmar. But yeah, Fire Terra with the King Gambit, so you can actually play around Volcarona, Flame Body, and of course the fire moves in general. And yeah, was able to perform extremely well here. And Life Orb, Encore, Alolan Ninetales that can put on more offensive pressure. All right, then let's move on to 5th place. We have Federico using the Marco Fiera LIC team, and I think these are all the standard sets, so not that crazy. I think him and Marco both ended up using this team at this event, and Federico was able to finish 5th place. The Torkoal Jump Love stuff with Charizard and the Ursaluna P2 Incin. I've already talked about that several times. Lewis here being able to do well with the Emanuela team, and I think this is the exact same copy, except it has Encore on the Ninetales. But pretty much we've talked about the Emanuela team that won the Frankfurt Regional Championship, which was able to perform well here. He was able to get a 6th place. 7th place, Lucas. We actually have talked about Lucas before. We've talked about a big VR tournament where Blaziken was able to win, and this is his team, and he was actually the pilot that was able to win that big VR tournament. The only change I think that was really big was going to be the Primarina is no longer Specs. It's running the Protect instead, and it's running Fairy Terastization for really powerful Moonblast Dazzling Gleams, and Hyper Voice, of course, with the spread Water type move. The Life Orb really able to still do a lot of damage while having access to that Protect. With a Asylvest, Rillaboom, standard supports Electabuzz with Electro Web and Taunt. The Loaded Dice Baxcalibur that can take advantage of the coaching alongside the Solar Sense, Terrifier, King Gambit as well with Black Glasses. And the Blaziken, which does have special moves with Heat Wave or Spear, but also the coaching that can go for into the physical attackers. It was a really neat team to see here. And of course, we did talk about this team before in the previous Regulation H Baekfast Club, where it was a pretty strong team in the last season of the Battle Stadium ladder, finishing in the top 30. So was able to have a strong performance here and get 7th place. And then in 8th place, we have a pretty general standard rain team for the most part. This is pretty much similar to what Tori ran at the, what was it, Frankfurt Regional Championship? Yes, Frankfurt Regional Championship. I always remember because it's the first one in Europe. And yeah, it's Frankfurt. Focus Sash, Pelipper, the Choice Band, Terra Water, Basket Legion, the Bug, Archaludon instead of the Fighting Archaludon. I guess that's like the one change here. With the Safety Goggles, Incineroar, Life Orb, Golden Go, and Citrus Berry, Terra Psychic, Amoonguss again for size spam, except it has Clear Smog over Protect. But across the board, this is a pretty standard rain team. It's actually really impressive to get top 8 because this kind of build has kind of fallen off, especially. This is like a good old classic rain balance team that we've talked about before in the Regulation H, but yeah, it hasn't really been used too much. So really cool to see that Mateo was able to have a deep run here at this regional championship. 9th place, we have Simone with the Zine team once again with the Water Terra type. Oh, I guess it's the Ninetales version. It's the Ninetales version over the Dragonite version with the Poison, Covert Cloak, Alolan Ninetales with Encore, Aurora Veil. But otherwise, yeah, it's pretty much the same. Maybe like there's some small changes, like there's a Grass Terra on the Rillaboom instead of Fire Terra for extra power grass moves, I suppose. And it's the Water Blood Moon or Saluna that we have seen before. So that was able to get 9th place. And then we have Robert with Executor, which is pretty interesting because if I'm not mistaken, I remember Executor getting Regulation H at top 16 at a regional championship. I don't remember if this is the exact one, but I do remember there was Executor Entity Female and Torkoal. You had this Chlorophyll Executor, which could take advantage of Sun, really powerful. Expanding Force had Sleep Powder, Trick Room option as well, next to Psychic Terrain Entity, as well as the Torkoal. And this one's running Clear Smog for the Dundozo matchup, it looks like, with Eruption Weather Ball and the Charcoal, while the entity is going to be the standard Grass, Terra, Psychic Seed, Psychic at 3 support moves. The Ursaluna running Substitute over Earthquake, but otherwise your standard Flame Orb, Guts, Ursaluna. The Terra Flying King Gambit, which is very powerful with Terra Blast over the Ironhead, and then the Clear Amulet Glade for that Trick Room setup. So you have the Size Spam, you have the Trick Room mode, and then you have this Executor that can mix things up. So interesting take on Sun Hard Trick Room. Then we have the team we saw from Jay, which was from the last Regional Championship in Lille, able to do well here and finish in the 11th place. And it's the exact same, I believe, maybe a few different changes. I don't remember if the Pelipper was Steel Terra, but across the board, I mean, I guess there's like a few changes because there is also like Final Gambit on the Annihilate. And I guess one thing I forgot to mention is you could beat up the Archalon for the stamina boost for the body press. And it looks like this set is going to take a bit of a different take because it is running Fighting Terra this time with the body press to take advantage of that. And this Tatsugear is Bright Powder with normal Terra. I don't know what to think about that. That's a thing at this point. Okay, not even gonna try to comprehend. Normal Terra, I don't even know. I guess it's like Annihilate Rage Fist, I suppose. But otherwise, like what, Shadow Ball? I mean, that's really all you run normal Terra for are those two. And I don't even know if the Shadow Ball is like that big of a deal. But interesting to see normal Terra here on this team. And we have the Emanuela team again in 12th place. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be the same build. Encore Ninetales. Yep, it is pretty much standard, except it has Clear Amulet Incineroar on this one. That's the only difference here, instead of like Citrus Berry or Safety Goggles. Marco running his Sun team again with Fede. And then Flavio De Pato also using the really general Rain team, which again, really impressive to see since I thought this archetype kind of has died down, except it's running Snarl over the Flash Cannon. But Fire Terra, Moongus with Citrus Bear, I suppose, Safety Goggles, Grass Terra, Incineroar, the Life Orb Water Golden Go, the Water Terra Choice Band Best Legion, Ground Terra on Pelipper, I guess, is for like any strong electric type moves in general, especially like the Electro Web stuff from the Electabuzz stuff that you can commonly see. And then yeah, Bug Archalon with no Flash Cannon. So yeah, those are the teams that were able to top cut. Otherwise, like you see some stuff that we have seen previously, like all the Mons, more Zork, more Espafra that we talked about previously, Smeargle kind of coming up here, Mandibuzz, which Chestnut, which was crazy at 21st place. I believe this team was also on the stream, but yeah, it had like Rocky Helmets, Mandibuzz with Brave Bird, which attacks that's not great, but I mean Brave Bird's a powerful move, and against the Perfected Mons can do some damage. Rocky Helmet overcoats the fantastic ability. Choice Specs Entity, Male with Terra Ground, Terra Blast, and really strong Expanding Force Hyper Voice as well, and to disrupt your opponent. Choice Band Dragapult, you have like this really insane fast offensive mode here, especially Psychic Terrain blocking any priority moves from affecting this Terra Dragon, Dragapult from firing off the Dragon Darts, and then Sturdy Archalon, not too surprising, and then the Solves Incineroar. So yeah, definitely a really cool team. A Covert Cloak Chestnut with Fire Terra is definitely an interesting one. With Bulletproof, it's actually interesting because with Fire Terra, you resist the Make It Rain. You also resist, of course, really strong fire type attacks. And the Bulletproof prevents you from being affected by Shadow Ball and Weather Ball, which is actually pretty big. So Chestnut's immune to those moves because of the Bulletproof, and then can go for like the Iron Defense setup. And go for like Seed Bomb and Body Press for damage, and it has Spike Shield as well. So it has no recovery, which is kind of interesting, but I guess like you only need a few turns because otherwise you have like really big offensive coverage with Dragapult, Entity, and Archalon. It was a really cool team to see. We see Gyarados and Klefki here in 25th place with Underwave on the Gyarados and Rain Dance on the Klefki, which is supposed to support the Archalon with screens. You have to beat up Whimsicott that you could go for beat up with the Annihilate. I'm kind of curious if this Annihilate is designed to be slower than Whimsicott with the Choice Scarf, because sometimes you would see like Whimsicott be faster And a Choice Scarf Annihilate, that's 1 point slower. Go for the beat up, and then Choice Scarf Rage Fist for the surprise, so that could be a factor. And of course, you do have it for the Stamina or Challenge, and then set up Volcarona with Quiver Dance, I guess, to take advantage of the screen. So utilizing the screens and the disruption for the Archalon and probably your Volcarona to set up against a lot of teams. But yeah, I think otherwise, am I seeing anything that really stands out to me? I think a lot of teams are to be expected. Maybe Palafin, because we haven't really seen Palafin in a long time. But yeah, otherwise, I think all the teams are pretty much like, okay, these are Mons and teams that I have seen before. So that is basically all 5 regionals that we have covered so far on the Baekfast Club. That's for this episode. Regulation H. Yeah, I think I can say like this format, as I said before, it's not like too anything different. Like a lot of the compositions are kind of similar. You're still seeing the balanced teams really thrive. There's maybe like some slight innovations with like tax, terror types, maybe a few slight move adjustments, but across the board, it's pretty much the same. I can't really say too much. Maybe you got to see some like cool text here and there, but across the board, yeah, it's still staying the same because I believe this is the final event for EU, if I'm not mistaken. So not too surprising because there's not really much on the line. So yeah, it's only LIC and the Vegas Regional Championship, I believe. And of course, if they're playing the Grand Challenge, I guess Grand Challenge 2, which is actually this weekend while I'm recording this. But yeah, a lot of these teams, pretty much, we're kind of wrapping up towards the end of Regulation H. If we're going to see anything crazy, players are probably saving for the Latin America International Championship. Otherwise, that is probably going to be the big one. Vegas, I'd probably expect maybe some crazier stuff because the US definitely likes to go more exploring with team building, I guess, in a lot of cases, especially since it might be the last event, since probably like not as many players may be flying out to the LIC. So we could see like more teams there, especially since the West Coast, and West Coast is known for like running these wacky teams in general. So it should be pretty interesting. Do I have really any hot takes here or any opinions? Yeah, Volcarona on the rise, not too surprising. It's really good into Golden Go. Even Blood Moon or Saluna doesn't really like dealing with the Volcarona because the Volcarona Quiver Dance just boost up, really frustrating for the deal with. It's also really good into the normal Emanuela team, especially with the Grassy Seed variant, because that defense boost really does matter for like Incineroar, and of course like if you terrestrialize can matter for like Rillaboom and more. And yeah, like a lot of the adjustments, I don't think it's too crazy. We're kind of going in circles here of like what beats what. Even the Marco Sun team had a point that's doing well because it's good into the Manuela team, because the Charizard is super threatening into the Manuela team with like how much pressure that it can do. So yeah, like we're kind of going into this like just going back to like what works, finding out some slight optimizations. Is there anything I'd say could come out? I mean, not really. I think Regulation H is going to be the same. If anything does happen crazily, I'll be sure to report it. But yeah, we have 2 events in Regulation H, I believe, which is Las Vegas Regionals and the Latin American International Championship. Then we're finally done with Reg H. If there's anything crazy, we'll see it in the Latin American International Championship because that is going to be the big event. But yeah, like I think we're probably going to see a bunch of standard, or unless someone actually cracks the code, but I don't know if anyone will be able to crack the code in time. I could be completely wrong, and I'd be very happy being wrong, but like, I don't know. It's looking right now, the dominant standard stuff has been what's been on top for all of the regional championships so far. Like nothing's really been able to stop the standard balance course. Like maybe a few Mon differences here and there, but for the most part, it's not like, I don't think this is anything out of anyone's expectations who's kind of followed this metagame. And I'm kind of curious to see like how well Weather will do, especially will we see like returns of Pokemon to beat Volcarona. I think Volcarona is probably the #1 Pokemon that probably should be targeted right now. Maybe we could see something like Hisuian Arcanine come back. Hisuian Arcanine kind of fallen off. Maybe that's a Pokemon that can come back. It's good into Volcarona, especially. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out like what other mons that could be. Like maybe you go with like Terra Flying, Terra Blast Dragonite that could come back out. There's like so much maybe you could potentially do, but like Volcarona can be really annoying if really well played, especially under Veil and some other factors, or the Encore Disable threat is of course really annoying. So I'm kind of curious to see like what players will decide to opt for as these final few weeks with these last 2 tournaments. So let me know if you think anything crazy, but that is the Baekfast Club. I hope I explained it pretty much, because again, we're kind of just going in circles, maybe some slight adjustments here or there with the teams, but across the board, like it's pretty much the same as Regulation H Part 1 or like the first few weeks of Regulation H. It's just been a format that I think has kind of been that the top mons are just going to stay the top mons for the most part. Like there's really not much to say. Like there's a bunch of Pokemon in the high usage stats of like over 40% usage, and I think it's probably going to stay that way until something crazy happens. Maybe we can see like more Terra Flying King Gambits with Terra Blast with Assault Vest. Maybe we see like some new takes on Inner Focus mons or in general. But yeah, I mean, I think these mons are here to stay. But let me know your thoughts on the comments down below. I'm going to go rest my voice because I am tired. Again, if you do enjoy this series, make sure you leave a like down below, leave a comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube, on Spotify. Do your thing that helps support the Spotify algorithm, and yeah, support the show as it really does help out. And I'll catch you all around and next time, where we'll talk about the end of Regulation H leading up towards Regulation F.